Gotham Chess' next move could have been his best tournament move ever. Let's take a simple look at Gotham Chess, or Levy Roseman's 9th round game in the Spiele Imbergo chess tournament taking place in Italy. I'm Jonathan Raspberry, and I've been teaching chess for a long time. And I've been helping amateurs go through games that are very complex and understand them in simple, easy to digest bits and pieces. Hopefully you can learn something from this game and feel like you're a better chess player from this content. If you enjoy this, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and I will make more content like this very soon. So without further ado, the game gets started with the move pawn to c4. And Mr. Roseman is playing white here. He's playing against a guy named Alberto David. Mr. David plays pawn b6, and the Grandmaster immediately sets the tone for this game, and one that I want you to understand very clearly. Imagine you're playing against somebody who's higher rated than you, or just somebody who seems like a confident chess player, and they play this. You've never seen this before. Maybe you have, but you have no idea what to do. You feel like you're already beaten before the game's even begun. Let me tell you something. If you're playing against this type of play, atypical, strange side of the board chess, understand that they are not trying to beat you from the start of the game. If they're playing atypical chess, understand that it's not because it's so good. Because if it was so good, then Magnus Carlsen would be playing this all the time. But understand that there are problems with it. It's complicated. You're not going to win right away. But if you play simple chess, you keep the principles, control the middle, develop your pieces, get your king safe, nothing bad is going to happen. And that's exactly what Mr. Gotham Chess does throughout this game. So let's keep coming back to this point and make sure that we really understand it. Pawn d4, excellent move. Just taking the center if your opponent doesn't want to put any pieces there to begin the game. Now we see pawn, bishop to b7, knight to c3, just trying to play pawn to e4 here. And now pawn to e6. We could play e4, there'd be absolutely nothing wrong with this, but maybe something like bishop to b4. Now this knight is actually pinned, it could be captured, and the bishop might take on e4. So instead of this, white prepares e4 with a no-no move, f3. Now, Mr. Gotham Chess is a 2300 Fédération Internationale, is that a word? Fédération Internationale des Chess, International Chess Master. He is a good chess player, in other words. He's been around a time or two. And you are not one of them. He knows exactly what he's doing. This is opening theory. This is an idea that's very well known at their level. I would say simple for someone at his level. But you don't know this opening because you've never seen b6 before. You should never push your f-pawn before you've castled. But why not? Well, the reason is because the queen is going to often come pester you along this diagonal. Now, right now, we don't have to worry about that because it's just g3, and the queen has to go away. But if small changes happen in the position, like imagine if black plays knight c6 and you just play pawn b3, you lose now. What's the difference in this position? There's no difference, right? This is what Levy Roseman played. I saw this. This was in Levy Roseman's game. I saw this in Raspberry Chess video. This is easy. I just played g3. Oh, what's it? What happened there? Oh! Don't push your f-pawn. Please, don't push your f-pawn. It's not that it's bad. It's that it's got the potential to be bad. And every single move, between the time you push the f-pawn and you castle, you have to think about all the tactics. And there are a lot of tactics you might not be familiar with. Don't mess with fire. Don't push the f-pawn until you've castled. But Mr. Roseman knows what he's doing, and he plays the move pawn to f3. If knight to c6, for instance, you can actually just play e4 here, and there's no queen takes d4. So the Grandmaster plays e5, and now we are in territory that's not even known at Gotham Chess level. So Gotham Chess mentioned this in his video recap. He said, like, I didn't know what to do here. I thought this was some sort of brilliant sacrifice at first. But you see, the thing is, whenever you're playing somebody higher rated than you, or somebody who's just trying to make the game complicated, they are not trying to beat you right from the beginning. They're just trying to get the thing complicated. So here's what I like to do. To keep it simple, always accept the sacrifice, assuming you realize you're not getting mated or anything, and then don't try to keep it. Just play normally. And this is exactly what Mr. Roseman does. He plays e4 after knight takes on e4, e5. He plays f4 to kick the knight out. He's already pushed the f-pawn, so why not do it again, I guess. Knight to g6 and knight to f3. Just to give you another idea of why you should never push your f-pawn before you've castled. Imagine if this knight were, let me do a little bit of magic here. Imagine, for instance, that we just move the knight, let's say, right here. Look at the bar. Look at that bar. What? One square of the knight and it makes that big of a difference? What's the point? Queen check, and now knight takes g3. There are so many tactics that come from pushing your f-pawn. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's a bad decision, okay? It's really not going to work out for you. If the knight was just one square over, then Levy-Rozman would lose the game, okay? But it's not, and he knows the tactics are favoring him right now, so he pushes the f-pawn. So you can be very, very careful if you push the f-pawn. Just don't do it. That's the rule. Just don't do it. So knight to g6. We see knight to f3. We see bishop to c5. And now we see pawn to a3. The idea is very simple. White wants to play bishop to d3 and castle his king to safety, but he can't castle because the bishop controls g1. That would be an illegal move. So he wants to play b4 and make the bishop go away. Black says, I don't want my bishop to go away. I like my bishop on c5. It's beautiful. He plays a5. White plays bishop to d3, and then he plays his other idea. So a3 was not just a single move threat. He wasn't just trying to play b4. He was also trying to prevent black from going to b4 by controlling the square with the pawn, because his second idea was to play knight a4. And by the way, this knight 6 move, in case you're wondering, actually comes with a threat. Again, because the f-pawn's been pushed. Now the knight's coming to g4, and then the knight would come to f2. You can't castle. And also because the f-pawn is not there, the e3 square is technically weak as well. There's a lot of problems thanks to the pushing of the f-pawn. But Levy, again, knows what he's doing, and he knows he's got time for this move, knight a4, to kick the bishop out. The bishop cannot give a check to his majesty, so the bishop retreats. And after, don't castle here and lose your f-pawn. Another problem with pushing the f-pawn, it can become vulnerable. g3, defending, and then finally we see castling. So here we go. We have made it out of the opening. Let's continue to develop our pieces because we're not done yet. So white just plays after bishop to c6, a simple move. The bishop is attacking the knight, but the knight is defended. He plays a simple move, king to g2. Just getting his king a little bit closer to some of these pawns. The knight maybe, just to keep him a little bit better protected. It's a normal improving move. Rook to e1, improving the rook. Now the knight on the rim needs to move back with knight to c3. We see bishop to c5 here, and now white plays the move pawn to h3. You might have the instinct to play e5 here and create a chain. And to be clear, the pawns are almost always safer when they are in a chain, because this one defends, this one defends, this one defends, this one. But they don't control as many squares. A pawn with a defensive duty has one less offensive capability. When the pawns are side by side, though, they have a little bit more offensive capability. So pawns side by side are a little bit more aggressive. They may not be as secure, but they're more aggressive. So as long as they are not in any danger of being captured, pawns side by side are actually preferable to pawns in a chain. Fun fact. So black plays f6 here to maybe prevent white from, in the future, chaining up with pawn to e5. And white plays bishop d2. Again, if you don't know what to do, just develop a piece. We're not, technically we're done with the opening, but we still have pieces that need to be developed, so just do it. Develop a piece if you don't know what to do. Black reroutes this knight to f7. We see queen to c2, improving the queen. And now a4, it's kind of a hard move to explain, but it's just gaining some extra space, and space is always useful. It gives the rook maybe a potential square to come to. This b3 square could be vulnerable if a knight somehow made some incredibly harrowing journey all the way down here. This could be annoying, but yeah, just a small improving move from black. Now we see rook a e1. Okay, don't play pawn to b4 here. Why not? If you don't know the secret ninja pawn move, why are you in my chat? Oops. So pawn to b4 would not be the best move. Rook a e1 was selected, improving the rook. Now all white's pieces seem to be doing very good, but we can do better. Put the knight in the middle of the board. Now, you might realize that black can take the knight. Are you sure you want to sacrifice a knight? You are not sacrificing a knight! This is a trade if you allow it to happen. So don't be afraid. I see so many people saying, I don't want to sacrifice the knight for the bishop. It's not a sacrifice. Relabel it in your head as a exchange. Do you want to exchange the knight for the bishop? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if you do, think about what good would happen. Imagine bishop takes d5, pawn takes d5. And look at this. All of a sudden, our bishop is wide open. We're threatening the knight. If the knight moves, we're threatening the pawn. With two different pieces, we have gotten rid of the e-file pawn, so now we can try to take control of the e-file, maybe by trading a pair of rooks, sliding the other one over, gaining full control of that file. There's a lot of good things that could come to it. So if we're not afraid of this, just improve the knight. It's very simple. And what do we do after moving the knight? We can improve the bishop further with bishop to c3. So White's been being able to play lots of these great, simple developmental moves, and he's got a wonderful position. Bishop went back to d7. I think the idea is probably c6, but it's not a very good move. You'll notice how high the bar is for White. White is already close to winning. The best move here from White is the mind-numbingly crazy move, bishop takes f6. Now, nobody in their right mind is going to sacrifice their bishop for literally nothing. Like, you win a pawn and then you just push, and this is winning for White, right? Like. And why would you sacrifice another pawn? This is defended how many times? Didn't I say earlier, if you have more friends than enemies, that's a bad thing? That's if you don't have more friends than enemies, that's a bad thing. I see a lot of people attack. What's the point of this? Well, the point would be that after pawn takes, maybe this pawn takes, bishop takes f6. And oh no, now black is losing. Two beautiful checkmates. There's nothing you can do besides sacrifice your queen. Queen takes f6, top computer move. Beautiful idea. Very hard to spot from a human perspective because, think about it, you see the final result, but imagine you don't know the final result. Imagine you can't work your way backwards. In this position, why would you sacrifice on f6? Tell me, why would you do that? Can you explain why that's the right move? I can explain why that's the right move because it's very useful to have no g-pawn so that when you take over here, it's check. But how do you know that from all the way back here? Why are you even thinking about taking on g6 with check in this position when there's like so much in the way? So you're not thinking about that, and you're not thinking that you're going to follow it up with e5 because that's controlled too many times. It's very hard to understand. So it's very easy to understand why Mr. Roseman doesn't play bishop takes f6. It didn't even cross his mind, I'm sure. So after bishop to d7, e5 was played. Much more natural move. Now this does look like it's walking directly into the fiery, hailstorm of 1,000 flaming arrows. But the simple point is now that the pawn is pushed, now we're actually creating some threats against the king. So this move does actually make a lot of sense from a human perspective. If you're looking at your targets where you can attack, if you notice that you have a battery of two pieces lined up, look at what it could potentially attack. And if there's something in the way, move it out. And after the move, queen to c8, which is the game-losing move, you could have maybe survived a little bit longer by taking and allowing bishop takes on g6. But after queen to c8, his idea was, after bishop takes g6, that he wanted to play the idea of bishop takes h3. He thought that this would be game-saving, but it wasn't. Because after king to h2, h takes g6 was played, notice that bishop takes f1 would be a terrible move. Because of bishop takes h7, followed by rook to f1, and you will notice that we have two minor piece advantage versus one rook advantage from black. We would have a 2 versus 1 big time advantage. White would be doing really well here. So instead, the Grandmaster's idea was to go h takes g6, but he missed Levy-Roseman's next move. This next move from Mr. Roseman was quite possibly one of his best to ever have been played over the board. Gotham Chess' next move could have been his best tournament move ever. It was played against the Grandmaster in the final round of a big chess tournament. After a bunch of rounds where he didn't do well, and he woke up early in the morning to play in this round, and he's not in the best of mental condition right now. He's had it rough. But he plays a move which is absolutely amazing. If you remember what we've talked about before about the importance of taking on g6 with check, you might be able to find this move. But if not, just sit back and enjoy the simple brilliance that Mr. Roseman found here, the great move, Knight takes f6. Beautiful game-winning move here. G takes f6 was played. If you ignore that with king f8, saying that, you take my rook, I take your rook, I'm sure Levy was planning queen takes g6 with an absolutely soul-crushing attack here. Just to give you a hint now, if you take on f1, knight takes h7, king g8, e6, and we have checkmate on the board coming very soon. This is a beautiful move played by Mr. Roseman, and I'm going to tell you the way he found this was because here he was looking for a way to take on g6 and would love it to be with check. So he considered his forcing move, knight takes f6 in this position. It makes much more sense to consider taking on g6 now than it would be playing bishop takes f6 all those moves ago. Knight takes f6, the game continued, g takes f6, and after queen takes g6, king to f8, pawn takes on f6, queen g4, and the idea that Mr. David missed, I mean, he missed knight takes f6 for sure, but if he somehow saw it, then in this position, potentially, what he missed here, and the reason why Mr. David resigned here, was that because here he is forced to trade queens, and after king to g8, you're going to lose your bishop on h3. White has had a lot of material and has a crushing g7 pawn. I think the easiest way to win would simply be to find a way to get the knight over to h6 or f6, maybe with this simple little route here, maybe even to e7, force the king to move so that we can promote our pawn. Great game from Mr. Roseman. He had a tough tournament. This game was played, as I said, early in the morning, but he came with the fiery energy he's known for. It was an amazing game. Great job to him. He had a tournament where he was potentially losing rating points. Now he's going to go up after this tournament. So absolutely amazing. Great job, Levy, and I can't wait to see you in your next tournament. Good luck. And I hope you guys all enjoyed this. Again, remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more of these games. It really means a lot to me, and I'll be happy to make more in the future. I will see you all very soon. Goodbye.